want to introduce you to the one and only Jesse Itzler. Your bio is longer than I can ever describe. It's longer than my transcript. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Just had a very unconventional journey. I started out in the music business, signed to a record label, and then I transitioned into writing songs for professional sports teams. I did that for a while. I wore so many different hats, Joe. I was a manager. I managed Run DMC and other groups. Had a private jet company called Marquis Jet. Did that for a couple of years and sold it to Warren Buffett's NetJets, and then had a coconut water company called Zico, which we sold to Coca-Cola. And man, I'm a dad of 4, a husband, like to do long races. And I just wrote a book called Living with the Seal and Living with the Monks and blah, 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 blah. And just trying to stack, man, trying to build up my little life resume as best I can. Yeah, I just think the more that you experience, the more you have to offer, you know, to my kids, to my friends, the more empathy you have. And I think it's just, we tend to get caught up in just our work resume, our traditional resume, and that dominates who we are. And I think that you can land your dream job. I think that you can get your promotion, become more interesting, become more alive at work through experiences. So I've always focused on putting stuff like that on my calendar and working on stuff that builds what I call my life resume while my traditional resume comes up as well.
So the hardest part of the process, 21-year-old kid trying to figure himself out. Like, where did that start for you? Like, what part? Was it even younger than that, where you kind of found your hustle? Or there's a kind of concrete moment where it hits you and you're like, maybe I'm onto something, I got a white space?
I always liked challenges, and at a young age, I recognized that I wanted to have freedom to work for myself. And at an early age, I had that independence. I had a record deal, and then I went on my own in management and other stuff. And I loved that. I love that structure. And that environment worked really well for me. I could make my own hours and do my own thing, and it became really addicting. Even when I lost, having the flexibility in my schedule, I'm a big runner, I like to run. No one could, to not have anyone tell me, you can't do this at noon, we have a meeting, and I could work it around, was important to me. Before the money, before anything else, it was that freedom that I craved at an early age, and then the money followed it. It took a long time, but it followed it. The things that I recognize that I've had regrets in my life about, I also recognize that if it's fixable, I try to fix them. I don't want to have the long-term regrets when I'm 78 and be like, I could have ran this race and I didn't do it. I should have tried this business, but I was scared. I could have gone on this trip, but it was the wrong time. So I'm very aware of future regrets, and I really try to avoid those. And as far as losses, I've had businesses that haven't worked and businesses that haven't worked where I've raised money and I've lost people money. I've made people money too. But that hurts, man, that stings. I look at my wins no differently than my losses. Like when I accomplish a goal or something, like this race, it's over, people went great. It's like, check the box, what's next? I don't think back about all the accomplishments or failures. I look at like my windows like from today until my time is up. Not the first 51 years, man, they're in the record books already. And I just look at that, I just look at everything through the front window. And that's how I kind of attack it. I learn from my failures constantly, but I don't dwell on my successes. I don't own a Marquis Jet shirt anymore. I don't have a Zico hat. I don't walk around with my book cover on my, it's just not, I'm proud of it and I reflect on it once in a while, but I don't live in that past. I live in like, my scorecard immediately goes to what's next.
So Zico, Marquis Jets, 2 big successes, but they came unconventionally. Like, what sparked them?
They came out of like how most great ideas are born, out of just necessity, seeing a problem and coming up with an idea that can solve that problem. And for me, I was a guest on a private jet at a young age, at 27 years old. And when I walked onto the airplane, it was like that scene in The Wizard of Oz when everything...
Weird flex, but okay, that's cool. 27 years old, private jet.
Yeah, listen, I was a guest. I lived in an apartment I paid $300 a month for. And I walked onto the airplane with my partner, and we were like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when everything goes from black and white to color. I was like, man, people fly like this? And I just said, people my age would love to do it. Is there a way to make it more affordable? Or to not have this big commitment? How do we, change the model up? And that's where most ideas come from. It's like, what would make my life better? What's the problem? And then how do I solve it? And then how do I tell that story quickly? I love the feeling post-exertion, whether it's anything. I just like that feeling. And I love creating memories. I've never run a marathon by myself. Everyone's been with friends. So everyone's been a great bonding experience for me. And like I said, it's like your life resume. Like I'm constantly trying to put stuff on my plate that I like to do, that's different, gets me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but more importantly, gives me an experience that makes me feel good about myself. Yeah. When I was 21, I was running my first marathon. I read a book looking for any kind of edge called Fit for Life. And in the book, the author challenged the reader to only eat fruit until noon for 10 days and then go back and have your regular breakfast. So I tried it and I felt amazing. And then on day 10, I had my regular breakfast and I felt disgusting. And 29 years later, I've only had fruit until noon. It's all about energy for me. You only have a limited amount of energy and use a lot of energy for digestion. So for me, it's like if I could streamline my digestion through what I eat, it'll free up energy for everything else. I discovered that at a really young age, and I've been, feeling very vibrant since then. And I invest a lot of time in that. I don't think there's anything more important, man. You could have all the money in the world, billions of dollars, sports teams, airplanes, this and that, and if you have a sore throat, none of that matters, man. You're like, I gotta get rid of my sore throat. Yeah. So that's how important the health is, and I look at it like that. The only way that you can really be in tune with your gut is to spend time alone. We get bombarded with information, and I invest a lot of time and spend it alone. Not like I'm gonna go sit in the Himalayas on a couch in the mountains and not that kind of alone. It could be a run, it could just be 10 minutes, but I invest time thinking about work, thinking about what I want my kids to experience, thinking about how I wanna live my life, and thinking versus being influenced. And I think that's important. And man, I'm 51 years old, so it's a lot different than when I was 29 or 30. You start to look at things differently as you get older. So that's been a big part of my journey. Is the physical side's always been important to me. When I realized I was neglecting the spiritual side, I said to myself, well, who are the masters? I don't do well through podcasts. I don't learn through reading. I learn through experiencing and immersing myself in stuff. And the masters of spirituality to me were like monks. So I was like, I'm gonna go live with the monks for 2 weeks. And I did. I lived with 8 monks that lived on a monastery for 50 years. Where? Just south of Canada. And I lived with them for 15 days to understand how to get a little bit, I was never where my feet were. If I was at my kid's soccer game, man, I'm thinking about my run, my work, the Hawks, everything. And I learned to really, 2 things. One is to really reestablish my relationship with time, and 2 is to be where my feet are. And I also put parameters around the distractions. So my phone's not by my bed anymore. I'm not bringing my phone to a lot of events. I didn't check it once today yet, So I put some parameters around it to limit that. Everything rubs off on me. The greatest gift I had at Marquis Jet wasn't the success of the company, which was amazing and changed my life. It was the people it introduced me to. And as a young kid, when I was 27, 28, I was obsessed with their daily habits. So if I had a minute like this, I'd be like, Joe, what time you go to bed? What do you eat what do you eat? How often do you train? Where do you keep your money? What do you do with it? I was just wanted to know, to me, anyone that I could learn winning habits from, winning daily habits and winning routines, whether it's a pro athlete or whether it's, the cab driver, I'm all ears, man, because I want to, the habits are the foundation of everything. I'm a ready, fire, aim guy. So I don't think the systematic approach, I get analytical when I have to, but I've always been experience is overrated because it takes so damn long to get experience. If I'm gonna be for the next 5 years, I'm gonna get experience, all the 18-year-old kids, man, in their dorm room are gonna beat me. So I've always been if I have an idea, let me jump in, let me figure it out as I go, let me hire the people that can get me there quickly, and 0 to 60 as fast as I can.
So if somebody's sitting in the back of the car with you for 60 seconds, what's the advice you're gonna give them?
Well, if they were young, at that time you were a lot younger. I think if you're in your early 20s, don't lose your 20s. You still have to enjoy your 20s. You don't get them back. I think that's important, and I never did, despite even building Marquis or working with Zico, et cetera, all the projects, I always had a sense of enjoyment and having fun through the process. And so you want to have fun, you want to enjoy it. Things take time. A lot of people think like, oh, if it doesn't happen fast, I'm going to give up. No, man, it takes years to build stuff. So there's a patience involved. Most of the people that I know that are super successful are patient. And 3, you got to really respect the process. You have to have a passion for the process. A lot of people think like, oh, well, I love what I do. You know, I love selling my widget. Of course, you have to have that, but it's the passion around the process. When everybody else is at happy hour and you have to go because the manufacturer said something's broken, like that's part of the process. When you have to stay home late and write your book and everybody is watching the college football games and Saturday, you have to make that commitment. That's the process, the good and the bad. And if you don't have an appreciation for that, then the obstacles become too big. But if the passion, and I'm talking about a burning, deep down desire to accomplish your goal is there, then the obstacles become obsolete because you recognize, like, of course, man, you're gonna get bombs dropped on you. That's just part of the process. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that. Not eating late, shutting it down at 7 o'clock, 50% fruits and vegetables, less processed food, less dairy. I mean, if people just reduce their sugar and dairy intake, stopped eating at 7, and ate around 50% fruits and vegetables to junk, would probably be a lot better off.